Well, good morning. How are you all today? Welcome to Integrative Preparedness. Today I want to talk about warrior arts for preppers, and it may be a little bit different than what you think I'm going to get to, but it's important. We are in Bozeman, Montana. What a beautiful place, beautiful town, beautiful surroundings, mountains in front of me, mountains behind me. Hopefully you can enjoy. Hopefully you can see behind me. Just a pretty place. And yesterday I had a chance to stop by the dojo in Missoula, Montana, of the legendary and a good friend of mine, a good old former, he's passed now, legendary Jim Harrison, the one who was described as being the closest to a modern samurai as the 20th century could produce. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. Before I get to that, I want to remind you that this and all of my videos are brought to you by our sponsor, the Stonemont series, my books. Somebody says, how come you have to talk about your books? And I says, well, because I wrote them to help people learn all the lessons that I wanted to pass on about preparing for, surviving, and rebuilding after a total collapse of everything. It's a 7-book series. If you haven't read them and you're serious about preparedness, I suggest this to be the very next thing you do is to get these. You will learn things you never even thought to ask, and I say that because that's what people have told me. I don't mean to brag, but thousands of people have told me it is the best post-apocalyptic and preparedness series they've ever read. I won't argue with them because that's exactly what I tried to do, and apparently I was successful. If you haven't read them, you can get them. There are a couple ways to get them. The links are down below. The first is through Amazon. You can always get them through Amazon. The other way, and the way that I really love you to do it, is if you're willing to wait a little bit. And that is through me or from me directly through our website, stonemont.us. That link is also down below. But I have to warn, as I have been warning for the last few weeks, we have been so snowed under with orders. We're running about a month behind on fulfilling our orders. Just sent out a big load before I left on this trip. I sent out another load when I get back, and we'll just keep on going until we get caught up. But for right now, you're going to have to wait about a month if you don't mind to get them from me. But then I get to sign them for you, each book, and I write a message in there to you. And we actually, and if you buy them as a whole set, we can give you at a discount because we save money when we do that. Plus, we throw in the Stonemont notebook, and people love that. So through Amazon or through our website, stonemont.us. And like I say, I love it when you get it through the website, just if you don't mind waiting a little bit, okay? And when you get them, you'll say it was worth the wait. All right. So yesterday, I had, for the first chance in my life, the opportunity coming through Missoula, Montana, and had a chance to stop by Sakura Warrior Arts in Missoula. It was established by my old dear friend Jim Harrison. If you're not familiar with it, he is the legend that very few people have heard of. You've all heard of Bruce Lee, and you've all heard of Chuck Norris, right? Because they made movies. Jim wasn't like that. Jim was the one that Bruce Lee said there's only the two people he would least like to fight in a real fight in the world would be Mike Stone and Jim Harrison. And Chuck Norris is the one who said, Jim Harrison saved my life one time by stopping a punch an inch from my nose. But I stopped in, and Jim passed several years ago. I stopped in, never had a chance to stop in his old dojo before, and his son Tor was there. And the minute I walked in, it is one of those old, the tradition just surrounds you. Martial arts tradition just surrounds you. Jim built the place himself, essentially, and it's beautiful. It's traditional Japanese type, right? And when I walked in, Tor greeted me, and I brought Kelly and the kids in also, because Jim was like my spirit brother, and Tor gave us a tour of the place, and I might tell some other stories about that on another video, maybe just on the Patreon channel. and had a nice talk. It's like going in a museum, a martial arts museum. It is something. If you're ever through Missoula, stop in Sakura Warrior Arts. Well, it made me think about, because as frightening as Jim was to many people, he's one of the most feared competitive fighters out there. But more than that, Jim transcended that because he had real world experience. And that's where he and I kind of coalesced there. The real world experience. And he understood the limitations of certain things that are being taught in the world, certainly today, because the martial arts has been so watered down. It's all about money nowadays. Whoops, the wind blew you over, the Montana wind blew you toward. Let me see if I can set you a little bit better there. See if you can still hear me, okay? So he didn't just teach competitive martial arts, but he taught the real stuff, not the bull stuff, as he said. But if you were to have met him, just like, and Tor exemplified this so well when I saw him. I hadn't seen Tor in years, and it was this rare combination of very serious courtesy, and I think that's what's missing in a lot of people today. You know, it doesn't mean that you're not. You know, people love to pass on these so-called cool sayings, like the one attributed to Mattis about be polite but have a plan to kill everyone in the room. You know, people who don't know any better love quoting things like that. People who know better, people who understand the seriousness of personal combat, don't go around saying stuff like that. You know, what you will see is quiet, observant courtesy and extreme politeness, which is great. That is the first step. That is the first thing that I look for in a person. And if I see that they have that, I see that they have the confidence to be able to display that. You know, an interest in other people, not the one who's always trying to, you know, talk up themselves, but the one who is taking the time to observe the person and concentrate on the person to whom they're talking and get a real sense, to invest that time, to invest that attention. That is the first, you know, in my opinion. I could sit down and maybe write a big long, and I have. I wrote an article for Grandmaster magazine years ago about what makes a warrior. If I was going to sit down and write a list about what makes a warrior, it would include, I won't say it would start with, but it would include a genuine interest in people. Now that doesn't mean a superficial niceness. It means an interest in understanding people, what makes them tick, the ability to judge people by their actions and words and such as that. Well, now I want to step away from that and get into the things that I would suggest preppers and certainly preparedness-minded people develop, and that is warrior arts. Now, what are warrior arts? You can call them a number of things, but being able, and I really, in this context, don't like to use the term war, but to be able to participate in human conflict from the very minimum to the ultimate maximum. Okay? I'm not going to get into I'm not going to get into any techniques or things like that, but what I want to say is that too many people in the preparedness world are all wrapped up in guns. And of course, guns, you've now taken it to the ultimate maximum, right? Because now you're talking about killing. That's too bad. That's too bad that so many people in our world today go there immediately. You may be presented with many opportunities, really, to develop your skills, or many situations in which you will have to defend yourself, but maybe not up to that mortal level, that fatal level okay? And in order to do that, you have to have certain skills. You have to be able to participate in human conflict with sublethal force, okay? Whether it's just today or whether it's after everything falls apart. Those of you who have read my books know that I write a number of scenes in there where there are people coming into conflict and things have to be dealt with. And they don't just automatically shoot somebody, right? Because, well, that makes the day go badly, you know, if it wasn't supposed to go there. But very often, a sublethal response is called for and is necessary. And if all you have in your bag of tricks is lethality, you're essentially unarmed in these sublethal situations. Those of you who are familiar with the term karate, and actually it's karate, it's the combination of two Japanese words, kara and te. Kara meaning hand, and te meaning the well. Excuse me, just a second. Sorry, somebody was motioning me over there, and I caught myself saying something wrong. Te is hand, kara is empty. Okay, and that's what most people think, fighting with an empty hand, and so they think about this being without weapons. Well, I was talking to a guy one time, a guy by the name of Seiyu Oyada. He also went by the name of Taika Oyada, and he was a legend in a different aspect of martial arts, in the traditional Okinawan karate. And he said, no, people misunderstand. He didn't speak English all that well, but in broken English, he explained to me. He says, people misunderstand the term kata. He says it doesn't mean empty. He says it's like, they think it's like the sky, an empty sky, so it means empty hand. Now he says kata, used in this term, should be in this way, should be meaning vast, like the vast sky. So in that case, karate would include everything you can put your hands on, every weapon, from a rock to a stick. And the Okinawans developed all those weapons with which you're probably familiar: the nunchucks, the bow, the tanfa. I won't get into all of it. I've done those before. But it means that you learn to fight in every which way imaginable. Okay. Now, when I used to teach, and before most states got concealed carry, I taught a number of weapons. And there were weapons. They weren't the traditional weapons that most people associate martial arts with. They weren't the nunchucks, they weren't the tanfa, they weren't the bow, because those are historical. Those are traditional weapons developed by the Okinawans to use against the Japanese, who occupied them and made it illegal for them to carry swords. Okay, carry real weapons. So they took these agricultural implements and they developed ways to fight with them. You know, the tanfa turned out to be the police PR-24 nightstick, and with the little handle. I never carried that. That came after me. I just carried the big stick. So those were for that day. But in today's world, it's different, right? We don't walk around with chucks and grinder handles and things like that. And so when I would teach people weapons before they could carry guns here, I'd said your best weapon depot is, I got a bug, I got a Montana bug, is Home Depot. And so what we would do with it, I would teach them to fight with hammers and hand axes and draw saws, you know, like the old Japanese draw saws, and crowbars and screwdrivers and things like that. Now what this means is that in order to be fully complemented in your weapons, I suggest that you, and anyone can do this. This is the thing, you know. People say, well, I'm too old to be able to defend myself, or I'm too old to learn martial arts, I'm too old or decrepit, or I'm crippled, or whatever like this. No, you can. If you think about, if you were attacked, you can defend yourself if you have certain tools with you. I just said what some tools are, you know, so I don't have to go down a whole list of what you might want to have at hand. And so when I would teach my my students, when they got to that point in my system, was that you in your back seat, you should look like you're a carpenter, okay, or a tile layer or something like that. What was it that something came up? I was going to use it as an example, and it's recently been in the news. It's slipping my mind, but I'll get back to it. You should have, even if you don't, besides your gun, you should have ways to defend yourself, okay? And say a big old bad boy comes at you, and you know that you're probably not going to have much of a chance against him, but you can't shoot him, right? Because you're going to go to prison, because he's just coming at you and he's going to wail on you. You need to get out of it. You need something sublethal, or at least something that would seem sublethal in a court of law, you know. So you can go back. You have your toolkit in the back of your car, and in it you have your hammer, and you have your screwdrivers, and you have your little two foot long piece of rebar, and you have your draw saw and everything like that. And you grab one of them instead of a gun. Now, some people will say, well, if you go up against a guy with, you know, who doesn't have a weapon in his hand, and you take out one of those weapons, those are potentially deadly weapons. Yes, they are, depending on how you use it, you know, depending on whether you hit him with the claw end of the hammer in the side of the head, or whether you hit him in the shoulder with the hammer. You know, it depends on how you're going to be able to defend yourself in a court of law. But your first consideration is to survive, right? That's right. Your first consideration is to survive. Usually we have 3 fights. You know, the fight you're involved in, the fight with the police, and that doesn't mean fighting the police. That means when the police show up, you're explaining yourself and say, man, I was just so scared. You know, I just grabbed this. I grabbed this rock. He was, you know, I was afraid for my life, or my hammer was there, and I tried to swat him away. See, you're not showing that you were trying to harm him. You're trying to swat him away. And then the police, you know, you probably still have to go bond out, but then your third fight is in court, to where you're going to try to prove that you weren't trying to kill the guy, you were just trying to save your own life. So that gets into the law, and I'm not going to get deeply into that, but you know, people with better lawyers get off better. I'll just put it that way. So when you think about warrior arts, think about first your demeanor. Think about getting along with people. Thinking about the importance of courtesy, politeness. You know, like Jim used to say, he had the reputation of turning out the biggest ass kickers in the world. But when people brought their kids to him to learn, he said, most importantly, we're going to turn out ladies and gentlemen. How important that is in today's world, right? If you go into a really traditional martial arts school or dojo, you're going to see conspicuous courtesy, because only confidence can spur courtesy. You know, the ones who aren't confident in themselves are the ones who are always blowing so hard, right? Always trying to act tough. So think about, do you have the ability to address situations, you know, between nothing and just your hands, or a gun? Because there's a vast distance in there, you know, as Oyata said, vast. Kata. Think about those things you can use. Think about those things you can have at hand at home, in your office, in your car, so that if something, you know, comes along, you won't be left empty-handed, as they say, or with just a lethal, you know, response available to you. And when it comes to, if the day comes and we have a total collapse of everything, these situations are going to become more common. But you should be prepared for it even today. Okay, so the warrior arts, the ability to engage in conflict at all different levels. Think about it yourself. Think about what you can do. Hope you all could see the mountains. They are beautiful behind me. And before I let you go, just a reminder, if you haven't read the Stonemont series, I talk a lot about this stuff in here. And you will learn more than you can shake a stick at. And if you haven't read them, this ought to be the next thing you do. 2 ways to get them, Amazon or through our website, stonemont.us. Like I say, I love it when you do that because I love being able to sign them for you and write a little note in there to you and send them as a whole set. You know, you can buy them as a set through our website, not through Amazon, and you get a little discount when you do that, plus the Stonemont notebook to write all your inspired thoughts in and things like that, or maybe take notes from the series as you read the books. Write the notes in there, and you get those. Like I say, be prepared to wait. We're about a month. We're running about a month behind in fulfillment, so if you don't mind waiting, I'd love you to get them from me. Okay, you all have a good day. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow, but that means being prepared for every possibility out there. Okay? All right. Y'all have a good one. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.